But tonight we have an incredible lineup for you to share in this particular important day for many of the people from Mesoamerica. And that includes many Mexico, many of the people living in the Southwest, and also further south in some of those other countries that we call our neighbors. Tonight we will have pre-recorded material from La Bruja, also known as Caridad de la Luz, from the New Yorican. We have pre-recorded work from Edith Blackbird. We have Ronnie Corona live, direct from Puebla, who will be sharing poetry and music for this very important day. Aide Medina sharing her poetry. Michael Sindler, Generalissimo, Brian Franco, and from our friends who have pre-recorded the material from Tokyo, we have Takaki Umino, Nami Naito, and Yuri Miki, who you will get to see in really what I would call an incredible extension of the work we're trying to do here tonight. Additionally, we'll have Benedicta Boma, Mohammed Tariq Anis, Unmesh Mohitkar from India, our resident leader here, and K.R. Morrison, Karen Scott, who are here with us, and Vicky also. And we have from the northern continent, we have Tish Camp, the poet, who will share some of the work she's been doing. And again, managing the board is our fearless leader, Dane Ince, who will try to keep us going as we're working through night. So today is really an important day for many of us who talk about, our cultural background. And so the Dia de los Muertos, Miquilwi, Tontli as we know it, or the Day of the Dead. We'll be sharing, we had discussions about how do we present this across multiple cultures. And I think trying to avoid the pitfall of falling into the universal essentialism, we decided that, we all have our own kind of stories to tell about what are essential human conditions like death and mourning and grief and those elements. And again, in understanding how to be in the world, we want to understand what is that discussion? How do we approach this from the artistic perspective? And tonight we will have definitely different voices about this. And I was remembering when I first started writing as a poet, I remember the kinds of discussions we would have about, like, what does it mean to talk about a culture? What does it mean to be connected with those things? And for me, I think I always came back to this particular very public festivity about the Dia de los Muertos, because it was really a one place where you could truly express that sense of connectedness to culture, to history, to genealogy, to experience. And folks are welcome to send us comments on the Facebook. We will try to answer your questions in between some of the poets. I definitely want this to be a two-way conversation. We want folks to join us on this. I'm going to ask Dane to cue up La Bruja's contribution, and I'll read her write-up a little bit, because she kind of gives us, she's La Bruja is somebody who's been our mentor in the New Yorican Poets Cafe, and many of us have attended there. But she definitely is a force to be reckoned with. She's a poet, a playwright, an actress, an activist. She is considered one of the leading spoken word poets in the world. This is according to Latino Rebels magazine, obviously not me. In 2005, El Diario La Prensa, the largest Spanish language newspaper in New York City, named Caridad de la Luz, also as we know her affectionately as La Bruja, as one of the 50 most distinguished Latinas in the United States. So I think she is contributing something really wonderful to this event, and I think she's a great way to get us into the into this discussion that we're engaging with tonight.
Every single day is the Day of the Dead, but the 1st of November we celebrate instead, where we paint our faces with a skull for a head and think of our loved ones with candles and flower beds. Memorias de nuestros seres queridos que se han ido al cielo, pensamos en ellos, mirando al invierno que viene en diciembre. Qué frío es el mundo, life feels so cold without our loved ones to hold. Every day feels like Día de Muertos. Every day feels like the 1st of November. Every day, but I act like I only remember que es Día de Muertos. In that early cold November, every day feels like Día de Muertos. Every day feels like 1st of November. Every day, but I act like I only remember que es Día de Muertos. In that early cold November.
So it's no surprise that this is what we experience as Dia de los Muertos, is this kind of what it looks like from the outside, kind of an esoteric holiday. But I want to share a little more of kind of the roots of the festival, which is a culmination of a series of year-long exercises that different communities practice at different levels of complexity. Some indigenous communities, with like in Puebla, have very extended rituals associated all the way from February 2nd all the way to November 1st. And there in the Mesoamerican diaspora, there's two basic calendars that are being worked. One is called the Shutpoali, which is the yearly calendar, and then there is a sacred calendar that we call the Tonalpoali, which is basically made up of 100. It's 200. It's a shorter calendar than the solar calendar, and that one is the one that's used to line up the agricultural portion of the society. And so the Dia de los Muertos is a culmination of four very important events. One of them happens on February 2nd, which is what's called the syncretized version of it is called La Ceremonia de la Virgen de la Candelaria, just celebrated on February 2nd, which is also the time where they call it the blessing of the seeds, where the agriculturalists will take their seeds and they're blessed. The second important day is around May 3rd, which is what they call el levantamiento de la Santa Cruz, which is the beginning of the planting in that particular region of the world. And in August 15th is the Assumption of the Virgin, or Levantamiento de la Virgen, and that is also here in the northern Native American tribes. They call it the green corn holiday, which is where you get the first corn coming out. And then obviously October 30th, and November 1st and 2nd is really the culmination of where everything is harvested and put away, and people are celebrating. And so there's this kind of series of events that are stacked up amongst each other. One is the agricultural, the spiritual calendar, have been the Mesoamerican spiritual calendar on that, and obviously all of those. So those 4 dates are really important, and in between those, different communities will practice different variations of those ceremonies, and we'll work through that. One very important thing is that the Shutpoali is the smaller calendar, and it is based on basically a 9-month, what we call 9 months. But if you go from February 2nd to November 1st, it's 8 months and 30 days, which is also the average gestation period of a woman. And so the calendar is very matriarch centric, because the earth is seen in that perspective. So from February 2nd to November 1st is 8 months and 30 days. So it lines up, and I'll come back to that theme in my closing as to the importance of the, not only just the agricultural portion of this, but the importance of the main staple within the society, which is the corn, semayas as we call it in the bilineal name, and then corn as we call it here. The week of around here on October 28th, they have the first one of the first days is what we call the welcoming of the La Anima Sola, or the solitary spirit. On the 29th, and if Dane can get Edith's video ready, we will get to that. So on the 29th, it is those who have died who have died forgotten or by themselves. And then on the 30th, we go to the ones who died without eating or died by accident. And on October 31st, we have all the general ancestors. But on November 1st is when we celebrate the death of those who died in infancy, particularly because It is a very central theme to the Mesoamerican culture. We won't be able to cover a lot of it here, but I think Edith does a wonderful job. Let me read Edith's. Edith Tapia Blackbird is a queer bilingual writer, poet, performer with a declamation style from Mexico. There in 2005, Edith placed second in a nationwide poetry contest. In 2007, the Sonora University published her in their anthology Realidad Aleatoria. In the US, she has been published in the anthology Diversity in 2020. She is presenting us this really wonderful piece that she recorded. Take it away, Dane.
A todos los aquí presentes. I'm Edith Tapia, aka Blackbird, a queer writer, poet, performer with a declamation style from Mexico. First of all, thank you so much, Dane, for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you to all people involved in this amazing event. Gracias. De verdad estoy muy agradecida también con la audiencia, with the audience, for being with us tonight and everybody here sharing. Thank you so much, everybody. This blackbird, migrant bird, sings bilingual words made of technicolor smoke. So get ready, all of you, for a swirl of emotions as you immerse yourself in my chants. Hope you enjoy this trip to my world. Again, gracias a todos. This is a poem, a new poem, dedicated to this special day, which is very important in my country, Mexico. This is a new poem for that, which is called Bondad Incondicional. In English, we'll say unconditional kindness. This is a new poem that I created for this day, with all my heart for all of you. So hope you enjoy this. This will be in Spanish, and it's about angels, children, especially those who struggle in life on the streets. Let's go into this. Niños, vengan por aquí, vengan, ustedes, pasen a través del portal. No teman. Les prometo que este mundo será mejor, allá en el jardín de los inocentes. El pequeño mundo que creamos con el sacrificio involuntario, con el deseo arrancado de amar y ser amados, con la luz divina que se fue de nuestros ojos en un blink, en un pestañeo, bajo puentes, flotando en ríos, entre los autos, en aquella banca. No teman, les prometo que este mundo será mejor. Allá en el jardín de los inocentes hay otro tipo de carencias, de las buenas, porque ya no más flaqueza ignorada y tierra entre sus manos, sus dedos, ya no más lágrimas secas y ojos hinchados, ya no más hambre entumecida con espejismos momentáneos que corrompen sus neuronas y destruye su imaginación. Ya no más labios partidos, lo prometo, ya no más costillas rotas, ya no más sueños que saben a desesperación. Ya no más. Lo prometo, no como aquellos que nunca los ven a la cara, a los ojos. No como aquellos que tiran lo que a ustedes les falta. Lo prometo como quien siente el dolor en la raíz de sus gargantas. Lo prometo como quien es madre de la nada. Lo prometo, madre de la nada soy yo. Lo que no fue, lo que ustedes no les dejaron ser. Cortando así sus alas, apenas con plumas tiernas, a punto de caer del nido que nunca existió, del cual nunca tuvieron la oportunidad. Lo siento mucho. Lo siento mucho. Perdón por todos aquellos que tomaron su inocencia, la arrancaron sin importarles el vacío que iban a dejar atrás. Lo lamento mucho. Ellos convirtieron todo eso en un entretenimiento tortuoso, con caras pintadas, vestimenta banal, movimientos que invitaban al dolor espectral. No, mis niños, no lo olvido. Nunca lo haré. Pero ustedes sí que lo harán. Porque después del portal, solo son ustedes con su inocencia y yo, la guardiana de sus pesares, paradas en este umbral, siempre vigilante de que no se cuele ni el mínimo relámpago. No hay necesidad. No habrá que hablarlo más. Ay, niños. Ay, mis niños. Ustedes serán ángeles, aunque no como los pintan en los libros de oro, que todo mundo puede hablar, y catedrales ancestrales de los cuales todo mundo pinta y toma fotografías. No, sino como los seres de carne y hueso que solían ser. Así tal cual, tan humanos como son, tan frágiles y fuertes al mismo tiempo. Ustedes, mis niños, con ese semblante intacto ahora y pensamientos que descifrarán la luz en ese umbral. Este es su hogar ahora y siempre, mientras el universo decida si le da a esa gente de afuera la oportunidad de reconocer su aclamada y necesitada existencia. Lo siento mucho. Perdón por todas aquellas personas que no supieron reconocerlos. Pero ahora están aquí y ellos no. Y algún día el universo les permitirá encontrar el significado real de la bondad incondicional. Quizás no están listos ahora. Algún día, mis niños. Algún día. Gracias. Gracias a todos. Esta fue Eat a Blackbird. Hope you enjoyed this with me. Thank you so much.
Wow, what an amazing performance. Let's give it up for Edith Tapia Blackbird. I think she really, like if I was to imagine what it would be like, I think she definitely answers the question of how to welcome all those children that have perished, and she is embracing them, and her incredible performance really drives that point home. And I know many of you get Netflix these days, and you are some folks are cheering up because there's a little series called Maya and the Three. It's about Mesoamerica, but it's a as usual it's a conglomeration of two cultures, which is the Aztecan culture, the Aztecan Nahuatl culture, and the Mayan culture. And they have Lord Mictlan, who those of you who have seen, it is definitely not the way that their culture. To generalized entertainment. And that it definitely doesn't share the sense of the place or the sense of commitment to culture that it should really demonstrate. So definitely, I think that Edith Blackbird brought that point home. I'm going to call on um, um, Ronnie Corona, but I want to just remind folks you're tuning in to Poets Celebrating Their Dead. This is part of the of Dane Ince's weekly poetry reading series on Facebook and over Zoom. And definitely want to remind you that if you feel you want to participate, today we don't have an open mic, but tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can return and join us to participate in the open mic portion of Poets Celebrating Their Dead. With that, I want to introduce somebody who's live here today. So we're going to have Ronnie Corona. He's a copywriter and a content creator from Mexico. Today, I believe he's in Puebla. For the last 3 years, he's participated in slam poetry and spoken word events, winning some and doing presentations for different parts of the world. His current job is promoting the discipline of spoken word in Mexico. He shares spoken word talking about Day of the Dead today, and he will be sharing some of his writing and also some of his musical work. Ronnie, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hi, welcome. Hi, nice to see everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. Can you tell me if you can see it? Okay, perfect. So I really appreciate the invitation to Dan and to Mr. Tesosomok. So La Flaca, in Mexico, we celebrate Death's Day or Day of the Dead. We create across the time a character called La Flaca to reference when we talk about death. Sometimes in Mexico, we say La Flaca is dancing with you. It's an expression to say that the dead is coming. So this text is going to be in Spanish, but you can read the translation into English. So here we go. Ya me voy para mi tierra, a morir bajo su cielo, a morir bajo su cielo. Ya me voy para mi tierra, y es la muerte quien me lleva. Yo no voy hacia la muerte, yo no voy hacia la muerte. Es la muerte quien me lleva, porque la muerte viene en pequeñas dosis de respiro. Y en un país como este, con tanto dolor, con violencia, algunas veces morir, si es pasar a mejor vida. Porque la flaca viene y toma conmigo, pero no me concede ese último trago y solo me deja las palabras con resaco. Viene, pero no me da ese último beso, el beso de la muerte. Y es que la flaca viene y se ríe de esta vida y su sufrimiento. Porque la flaca viene y mata a mi familia, mis amigos, mi alma, mis ganas de abrir este corazón otra tarde. Y entonces con el tiempo entendí que la flaca, la muerte, no se viste de negro. Se viste de vida, porque abarca los buenos y malos días, los momentos de soberbia y egolatría, porque la muerte viene cuando río, porque la muerte viene cuando respiro, porque la muerte viene cuando amo, porque la muerte viene cuando sueño y suspiro. Ya me voy para mi tierra, a morir bajo su cielo. A morir bajo su cielo, ya me voy para mi tierra, y es la muerte quien me lleva. Yo no voy hacia la muerte, yo no voy hacia la muerte, es la muerte quien me lleva, porque la flaca vendrá por mí uno de estos días, y no es que yo la espere, es que ella me está esperando. Thank you. My second and last text is going to be a little song. Now I'm going to try to be some kind of octopus because I had to play and also change the presentation. Cheers. I'm drinking a little mezcal. So, we'll cheers. I grew up without my family since I was a kid. I was separated from my family. But I never forget my family. And I have to know about my family just across the distance. So that's why I wrote this, talking about memories, talking about regards. So here we go. Oh, by the way, sorry. The pictures are from Juan Rulfo, one of the best Mexican writers. I seriously recommend Juan Rulfo, great Mexican writer. So here we go. Llévate algo para el camino, aunque sea para espantar el aire. Mientras tanto, tu recuerdo se balancea un instante. Pues viene y va, viene que viene, viene y va, viene y va, viene que viene, viene y va. Yo no sé cuándo tú llegues, cuando la vida te traiga. Pero si con amor tú vienes, yo sé que entonces no tardas. Viene y va, viene que viene, viene y va. Ay, amor, que bajas por el cerro, llegas a casa y te recuestas en mi pecho. Ay, amor, que bajas por el cerro, vienes, me abrazas, nos hacemos cielo. Viene y va, viene que viene, viene y va, viene y va, viene que viene, viene y va. Cuando un día ya no esté, sigue pasando a saludar. Que aunque tú ya no me ves, yo no te dejo de esperar. Cuando un día ya no esté, sigue pasando a saludar. Que aunque tú ya no me ves, yo no te dejo de esperar. Que aunque tú ya no me ves, yo no te dejo de esperar. I will never stop waiting you. Thank you so much.
That was stunning, beautiful.
Thank you, Ronnie. What a great presentation. Oops, am I muted?
You're okay, my friend.
You can hear me? Yeah. So thank you, Ronnie, again. That was a great presentation. Juan Rulfo is in a very much a spiritual writer, father for me. I grew up in many of the areas that he describes in his work, and I was like, oh my God, he's describing all my aunts and uncles and relatives, and I was like, oh yeah, I totally get it. I totally get where he got all that writing. So again, we seeing these images and that sense of connection, of remembering, of remembering our ancestors and remembering the landscape that produced our memories, the landscape, the foods that produced our memories. And I had a chance to hear Aide Medina at another open mic, and I was like, wow, she she definitely is really a great choice to close out this block of poets. She's bringing Flor y Canto, which we know as Xochitl in Nahuatl, and that is the ultimate expression of the performative aspect of culture, which is to bring your flowers and your songs together, or flowers as songs in a metaphorical sense from the cultural perspective. And Aide Medina is a poet and spoken word artist. She is a member of the Reforma del Valle Central, advocating for libros y community, books and community, and mothers, helping mothers, an organization that works to alleviate crisis needs caused by political environmental disasters. She is a UCCMP certified Californian naturalist and practices Flor y Canto as part of her poetic process and exploration of California's natural history. Her work has appeared in Fresno State's Club Austral, Literary Magazine, Chicano Writers and Artists Association Journal, La Bloga Poets, Responding, Art of Commune, Split This Rock, and many more great accolades. Please welcome Aide Medina.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Es un gran honor estar con ustedes. Normally this day I spend it in reflection and awaiting my mother's spirit and my family's spirit coming to visit for tomorrow. And so it's feel at first I didn't know how I was going to feel to be here on a day that is very private for me in a way, you know, the preparation, because I share everything about it on social media, but I don't do the process. But you know, it feels wonderful actually to be in community, to hear Ronnie. Oh my God, que hermoso, you know, that was beautiful. And to hear the other poets who read, because I know that these days, these moments are much more than, like el maestro said, they're not an aesthetic, they're not a decoration, they are a spiritual practice and something that connects us with our ancestors. And some of us have been ripped from those practices and traditions by colonization, by borders, by migrations. And so it takes on even a deeper meaning. It's a desperate connection. And it's a beautiful one. So, thank you for having me, and for my dead, my ancestors, and for all of yours. Flor y Canto, una ofrenda humilde. A passing cloud, screened for the red hue in an October sunrise, the setting moon in the morning, sky called out my name to remember yours. These hours by a window are well spent to frame sky and clouds. Sounds of migrating birds are not music. Why do I dance? The days wouldn't be what they are without you. If it wasn't for multiple colors of the word blue, for the single angle of a sunlight in autumn, my eyes wouldn't turn upward with love for migrating geese. Would I even notice the time if I was not walking hand in hand with death? Would love feel so alive? Autumn at a gravesite is more hopeful than spring. Resurrection, visitation through the golden lens of fall. Doors open between worlds to let the house air out. Summer bruises with its heat, with the hurry to be anywhere but home. Pero ahora, it is time to be home. Sunlight leads me to my window in the morning, shows me that the moon is still here, waiting to face the sun, and so am I. And the sun moves at its autumn pace, in its autumnal ways, resurrecting all dying thoughts. Believe in the power of marigolds. Memories and eternal love carry the scent of fresh cut marigolds. and coffee with canela when it's for my mother. Anything can be resurrected in the fall. And, during this time, not only are we remembering with reverence, but we have fun with the idea that we walk with death, that if death is ever present with us, and we don't shy away from it. It is a natural part of our existence and of who we are. So this is a little poem kind of jesting with death, the idea of eternal love. Me pide paciencia, mi cariñito, que lo espere en lo que se compone y ya me verá en caja de muerto cubierta de flores de pies a cabeza, aún esperando que se mejore. So, it's always fun to think about those things, and it alleviates the stress and the sadness. We jest and we think about that. For my mother, para mi madre, se llamaba Lupe Medina. Era mujer de música, de poesía y de baile. My mother was a kitchen ballerina, a dancer on wings, on stilts, on ice, on clouds. My mother, cloud woman. My mother, kitchen dancer. My mother, lover y poeta. Her name was Lupe, and greeting her on an altar, I built it with orange blossoms, the rich perfume of coffee, jewel skulls reflecting candle flames. And we lay out pan dulce and pumpkin candy, cacahuates, and 1,000 memories, all which she gave us. Mother, we are waiting. Thank you. And during this time of year, all things that I meditate on tend to take me towards the eternal and towards living with the eternal. To me, my mother is very much with me every single day. Her presence is in everything that I do. I mean, I can't get away from being her daughter. But during, of course, these days are special because I'm like preparing, like she's gonna visit me, and I'm fixing the table. It's a party, and it becomes a celebration with so much joy that it overpowers the sadness, and it melts the sadness together with the joy. So you're crying and laughing all at once, and the altar is flaming with all the candles. And you look towards the sky, and everything and anything that flies takes you there and reminds you. So this poem is about that. Segmented body. Part 1. Y las mariposas. Y las mariposas. Because my mother always sang that song. And we stood in the grove of eucalyptus trees, heads tilted back as far as possible to gawk at heaven and its angels. The monarchs rested on leaves and branches, drooping limbs heavy with butterfly bodies. In a second, the entire colony was in the air, fluttering down to earth. I breathed it in. Monarchs, mariposas, such beautiful creatures. Part 2, the swarm. My chest opened, my heart covered in black and orange shields, delicate to allow moonlight, sunrise, dusk, simultaneously, all moments of day, simultaneously and undoubtedly delicate, but shields, butterflies are my totem, my way, and exposing new skin to where they can eat away these lovely insects. The swarm, it moves with my limbs, hides my nakedness, every wing a part of the one, and I am a part of every disintegrating wing. Lo siento como polvo, como magia, como memoria. And like I said, I not only honor my mother on this day, of course, she's always the center of my altar and the center of my heart. But there are other people who have left this existence and are on to their next, they've transitioned. And this poem, The Deer Path, is for them. The Deer Path. I have recently come back from the deer path. My soul is now in my body. All of these thoughts are my own thoughts. The deer has confirmed my return. His mother died, leaving him wounded, killing my hopes of meeting her. Now I will never know the answers I have wanted from La Madre. His secrets are his own. I may be angry at this moment. The elderberry, the manzanita rustle, he is there, even if I cannot see him, in his deer hide, in his buck form, venado, closer to the earth now, mortal, now that his mother is gone, and my soul is here with me, mortal. He sent me away. I have left the forest, exiled. I will have to cry alone for all of us, for lost mothers, grandmothers, lost love, for all of the love that has left us. And one final poem. Thank you so much. Enciendes las veladoras en mis ventanas, cuando en tus huesos pienso mi bien. Alumbras todo lo que puede ser y lo que fue. Enciendes todos mis pensamientos con una sola mirada, como llamarada o humo sagrado. Por eso te siempre, cempasúchil poeta en el panteón, para cuando yo me muera, nunca te falten palabras de amor. Thank you.
Thank you, Aide.
Thank you.
What an amazing collection of jewels and flowers and songs that you've shared with us tonight. We definitely have taken them to heart, and we can appreciate them deeply. As the week comes close, tomorrow the altars are picked up, and the food is either redistributed or the flowers are picked up, and people make a pilgrimage to the cemetery where they lay many of these items at the altars at the cemetery. And tomorrow is the last day of the ceremony, which concludes with what we call anima sola. In the anima sola translates as the solitary spirit. It's in the Mesoamerican tradition, it's considered a very powerful being that people call upon when in need. And particularly in the Aztec dancing circles, la anima sola is the utmost force to be reckoned with, and many of the ceremonies are always conclude with a final song that is dedicated to La Anima Sola, Animas Benditas, as they call them. In the traditional sense, they would do a call out. So every stanza, they would keep adding people's ancestors, calling them to the altar. And I think that nobody has done that better than that. And Aide Medina summarizing that part of the ceremony for us. Moving from there, we're going to travel with other poets here who are going to share their experiences about honoring their dead as poets. Some folks have said they are not particularly representing deeply their they don't want to be legally bound to their cultural association. So we will let them decide how deeply they want to be connected. I want to introduce Michael Sindler, somebody who I've enjoyed sharing the open mics with many different places. He's a very humble man. Tries to not put too much light on himself, but he definitely encompasses many of the things that I consider to be like wonderful aspects of humanity. He has a deep sense of grief, having lived a long life. He is himself an artist. Many of the artworks behind him are his works. He doesn't really talk about them very much, but definitely he is somebody who has lives the artist's perspective. And again, he is a resident of Denver. His favorite tagline is the lighthousepoets.com, I believe. And his compositions span many genres, as I can attest to that. He has appeared in many regional and national prints on the web and in publication, many anthologies, including 2020, The Year America Changed. He's also collaborated in a wide array of media bridging projects and performances. I know that him and Lee Soto have done this is 2 years in a row. I've seen him do Dia de los Muertos collaboration, which I think is speaks very highly of his character. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Sindler.
Oh, thanks. That is very, very kind of you to say. And thank you for hosting this, and thank you, Dane, for making it possible. Yeah, in my tradition, like something you'll note if you ever go to a Jewish graveyard, you'll see a lot of little pebbles and stones on top of the gravestones where people will leave them to let them know that they've been there. And my parents do not have gravestones, so you can't, there they are, you can kind of see them floating. And I am going to place a stone here on top. It's not really, okay, not really showing, but I put a stone there on their picture for them. And with that being said, I am going to go ahead and do a few things. This first piece really does deal with our tradition, because it's hard for any of us to get away from the one thing in the 20th century that defines us. And this is called From the Oven, January 27th, 1945. The last crumbs of bread, child's face twisted with hunger, age gives way to hope. Charity weighed, found worthwhile. In this, a chance emerges. Giving way to death, elder's hand extending, softly touching lips, sacrifice made with intent in service to the future. Beyond the wire's edge, soldiers in a row approach. Freedom comes too late, withered bodies still holding, crying hope for humanity. Many years later, the life saved in that moment, feeding a grandchild, sings soft praise to salvation. The world rests on a heartbeat. and that was a renga, which is a Japanese form. This is a sonnet for my father called Let the End Be the End. Hair did not grow longer after you died. Shrinking skin underneath revealed the roots. No continuation should be implied. Let the end be the end. All else is moot. Though salt lingers in trails from tears I've cried, even in my sorrow I should speak truth, neither to falsely praise or to deride, else true memory dissolves and dilutes. Yes, we sometimes clash, that can't be denied, all those unresolved passionate disputes. Yet I hunger for wisdom you supplied, profuse harvest of nurturing sweet fruits. Mistakes were made that I can never mend. It's time now to let the end be the end. And this one is a triolet, a series of triolets from my mother. It's called On My Phone. I have a picture on my phone of my mother as she's dying. I'm glad that she was not alone. I've got a picture on my phone as she's transcending flesh and bone. To this call, there's no replying. I have a picture on my phone of my mother as she's dying. And this is another sonnet, and this is for a dear friend and lover who I lost. It's called Lisa. No suicide shattered me like Lisa's. The pain stabs deep when it's someone you love. From the edge, angels whispered on breezes, but demons in her mind gave her the shove. She called desperate and incoherent, left rambling messages on the phone. When I picked up, listened to her lament, I tried to pull her from the danger zone. Her brain betrayed her, was a saboteur. When last we talked, she was so paranoid. With a gun some brainless fool had lent her, she fled her torment, leapt into the void. Those left behind vainly search for answers. We don't succeed as necromancers. And this next one is for other friends, called Gone. A boy I never met is gone. An old friend's child since grown to manhood. I could not say his age, merely guess by decade and place him in late 30s. I don't remember or perceive if I ever knew his name, but still my heart grieves. Is this sadness for a cipher, for long separated parents, for unlived possibilities? How did they raise him? Which one was he closest to? Which one did he long for? Who would he call when he felt small on a too large world? I don't know how or where or why he died, the circumstance of destiny, an accident or long illness or by his own hand, in loving arms or all alone. It matters not on either side of this void where echoes are muted. He's gone, and that can't be changed. Gone, I do not even know his name. And this last piece is for one of the great poets and just great men in the history of literature who we owe so much to, called Ferlinghetti 101, which was the last birthday he ever had, made it all the way to 101. Lawrence, you may have had tongue in cheek when you told us the world is a beautiful place to be born into, but it is more beautiful for having you in it, for having all those black and white thin paperbacks full of beads, and all those hats full of hope. Hey, y'all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael Sindler. Again, every time I learn new forms from you, and I'm very grateful. Thank you for continuing to share your vast knowledge of writing forms, Western or Eastern, as the case may be. Our next poet is a very exceptional poet. I've had an opportunity to collaborate with him on some of his work. Definitely somebody who has a technical, artistic capabilities. He's demonstrated many of his works that he's done as backgrounds, and obviously he's exceptional in a way because he's a very large person physically, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it that he can really open up, like there's a kind of a very inquisitive aspect of him from a poetic perspective, and you really could sense that he can defend that because he has the size for it, So I really appreciate that from Generalissimo Brian Franco. I was like, yeah, you couldn't do that if you were 5 or 4'9" or something. I know that from experience that if you couldn't do it, but you could do it if you're like 6 feet and monolithic in the sense, and I've always appreciated that from him. I hope he doesn't find that as uncomfortable as I'm presenting it, but I'm trying to give the sense that he has had ample opportunities to explore a particular aspect of his writing that really comes through in many of his works, and aside from he was raised in Mobile, Alabama. He says he's a Reformed Jewish. He's grown up in Utica, Mississippi. It's 13 and confirmed at 16. But I know him as somebody who really brings really a lot of interesting different perspectives and a very interesting playfulness to the poetry that I think he may not be able to demonstrate here some of that tonight because he's going to focus on cherished, loved family ones, but keep your eye open for that. I think you will definitely appreciate that about him.
Thank you, Tess. I think that Dane chose the right person to host. You're someone with such grace with your knowledge, and indeed, you know how I feel about how you present your poetry, how you present your culture, and just everyone tonight. And I just want to say, Ronnie, I'm ready for more of your music. It's so beautiful. And I won't say anything about Sindler because I don't have to, because he is Sindler and he's amazing. So I have a few pieces to read and find them. So the yard site is the anniversary of the death in Judaism, and we have a candle that basically looks like a storm candle, and just a white candle in a jar that's called the yard site candle. And I wrote this in a workshop called Poets in Motion last year, and it's in the Writers from Inlandia anthology, so it's called Yard Site. The yard site candle burns for 24 hours. The candle is encased in what looks like a 12-ounce water glass, type diners use to serve milk or a large juice. It's filled with white paraffin that has a faint odor of petroleum. The aroma doesn't permeate a room, but it is the kind of aroma that seems slightly disturbing. This candle will burn itself out with no danger to anyone. At the end of 24 hours, a burnt wick attached to a small metal washer sits at the bottom of the glass with traces of burnt wax residue. One could clean and scrub and wash the glass, then use it in the bathroom for taking aspirin or rinsing after brushing teeth. As if it did not represent the life of a relative, as if Kaddish wasn't recited as it was lit. as if no one knew the glass they drank their juice from, or the glass that held milk they used to dip Oreos in, held paraffin that slowly melted away, representing memories and history and a life that lives on. So I recently wrote this piece in another workshop, which I don't remember which one it was. It's called When Souls Are Reincarnated as Wildflowers. I always wonder about a single rose that sits atop a casket as it is lowered in the ground. Judaism, each family member shovels dirt onto the coffin. It is a familial duty to the deceased, so they are not returned to earth by a stranger. I wonder if that one rose buried 6 feet deep in soil is capable of sprouting roots and stems, traversing itself around the grave to be reincarnated as a wildflower that was never slated for existence. We all exist by virtue of our parent. We all exist until we don't, then exist solely as memories of our existence. Way back when, people were buried in simple pine boxes that easily degraded into soil with the body inside, leaving the soul to find its way to surface as a wildflower that just enters the world just as a newborn infant exits a womb. This is next piece was a piece that I wrote on my mother's first birthday, and I need to say that I've had a discussion with one of my brothers. One of my brothers, we never discuss anything, but one of my brothers, we were discussing how we prefer to celebrate our mother on her birthday rather than on her yard site. So this is called her first birthday. I wrote it on the first birthday after her death. Today is her first birthday in heaven. On earth, all the floors have no yellow roses because her husband bought them all and had them delivered by Mercury himself. The Banquet Fried Chicken Company has declared August 3rd Rita Ann Papalanus Franco Day. The Cucumber Council of America has given Rita's famous cucumber jello mold a Hall of Fame award. The Carnegie Deli in New York City has added Rita's kugel with pineapple, golden raisins, a dash of cinnamon and nutmeg to its permanent menu. Michelle Obama will make Rita's onion top brisket as a main dish for a small family dinner by request of the president himself. For dessert, she made that coconut pecan brittle Rita used to make. It's rumored the First Lady had a Secret Service computer expert hack into Rita's laptop to find the recipe. Today, the souls of people who eat salami will be enriched with optimism. Today, every fox in the world will find their way to a desert to sing the Shahakianu. Today, she would have been 81. Today, she is 81. Today, all yellow rosebuds and all yellow rose bushes in the world will open in her honor. And the thing about that poem is that I love listening to memoriam poems that people read that have facts that everyone can't understand if they read it or listen to it, but they feel the sentimentality of what's going on. So this next piece is called The Tree That Hugged Its Humans. It's in the Poetry in the Brew Sinew anthology, and it tells its own story. The Tree That Hugged Its Humans. The first house my parents bought, 11 Burton Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, was a split level brick house with a magnolia tree in the front yard. The first and only house my parents built, 305 Front Hill Court in Mobile, Alabama, was a larger split level brick house, oaks and pines dotting the backyard. As a surprise for Mom, Dad had a juvenile magnolia planted in the front yard. Rita Ann Papalanus Franco, aka Mommy Salami, was awed by magnolia blossoms. Unbeknownst to her husband, aka Good, this tree was male, which didn't bloom, but it grew tall with twisted, gnarled branches, leaves as large as my adult hands, rich, forest green, crisp, slick, shiny with velvety, soft undersides. As beautiful and aromatic blossoms of magnolias are, the leaves give them their iconic strength of character. My mother's tree is now 41 years old, tall and wide as a New England town square Christmas tree. When Mom moved to a patio home in 1993, it was half its current size. I believe pieces of my family's soul live in the tree. The roots are my father digging deeper in the ground yearly, providing stability, season after season, milestone after milestone, hurricane after hurricane, barbecue after barbecue. The branches are my brothers and myself. The longer they grew, the more offshoots they produced, the more life we lived, crushes, first dates, bar mitzvahs, graduations, college, adulthood. Mom is the leaves soaking in sunlight, nourishing tree with unbridled love, absorbing ever-present rainstorms that plague Mobile, Alabama, and turmoil that beset our family. Rita, or as A-Tier, as Good called her, was a force to be reckoned with and was never without a hug for anyone in her family. After Mom died, I flew into Mobile from Maine. I asked my brother Paul to drive by the house. The tree was magnanimous. Paul stopped the car for a minute. We stared at a chunk of our history, then left for the funeral home to view the body. I knew if I walked over the tree, touched a leaf, I would have been touched by my mother's soul, a soul that would find it impossible to not hug her son from the afterlife. I want to do one more piece. I have a friend who passed away of cancer several years ago, and I drove down to Mobile to visit her before she did her chemo. This is called The Superstition of Beth. I wrote it for her funeral. So, her brothers will spread her ashes upon a mount called Superstition. As their tears meld with laughter from memories of her smile with desert dust, the Arizona wind will whistle Stevie Wonder tune, just because Elizabeth Ruth Walker has returned to her place of true happiness, and she deserves it. At dusk, her spirit will blend into the pinks, oranges, reds, and fuchsias of the sunset as if it were born there. An unassuming tumbleweed will wile its way across desert floor, absorbing residue of hopefulness, unwavering loyalty, and a true ability to love. It'll crash into a saguaro, piercing cactus skin, just as a woodpecker decides to perch atop the towering plant and peck away to drink its water. At dawn, the bird will fly to a mesquite tree in the shadow of Superstition. It will observe a small dust storm that becomes a herd of wild mustangs that stop to sound the tree. When a pack of domesticated blonde Labradors wearing Air Jordans approach the horses, the lead dog, named Ebenezer, challenges them to a basketball game. A silver-maned filly named Gladys accepts the challenge. Then the strange little curly-haired bird screams, "Hold up, people." It pulls out a little gym bag, unzips it, puts on a black and white striped shirt, and says, "I will officiate." After the game, they hop a jet to State Line, Mississippi for bone-in fried catfish, the world's best hush puppies, creamy coleslaw, and sweet tea that would make Dolly Parton scream, "Woo-wee!" Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As I mentioned and I warned the audience that you would get an element of playfulness, I think we definitely got to see some of that come through, and definitely a very, very unique voice in the poetic circles that we run. Thank you, Generalissimo Brian Franco, for sharing your unique voice. We appreciate it, and definitely you there is that element, but there's also that very lived experience and depth to your work, and that definitely comes through, and thank you for sharing that. We're gonna get our next clip ready from our folks who are on the other side of the continent and obviously are in a different time zone, and we didn't want to torture them. With the exception of Unmesh, we have to torture him because he loves being on these open mics. But our friends Takaki Umino, Nami Naito, and Yuri Miki are going to talk a little bit about their ceremony called Bon, that is about celebrating their how they celebrate their ancestors.
はい、では、Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Takaki from Japan, and Nami and Yuri. We are in TKOO Tokyo Kotoba online open mic, and also we represent KSJ Kotoba Slam Japan. This is our national poetry slam championship. Yes, and today we're gonna write a couple of pieces of poem, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, By the way, thank you very much, Dane, for having us here today. Okay, so firstly, I will read a poem and let me share the screen. Wait a minute. Okay. お二人見えてますかね？大丈夫かな？ Okay. Okay, so before I start with the poem, I wanted to a brief introduction for our event in Japan to celebrate our ancestors. It's called Obon, or just Bon. Yeah, and this is a Buddhist custom for honor the spirits of our ancestors, and we hold this event in every August, middle of August. And yeah, this has a more than 500 history in Japan, and it depends on the areas what to do in Obon, but usually doing the things on this sentences. And by the way, the picture is monuments we usually made for Obon. It's called Shoryoma, and the Shoryoma is for the ancestors to ride to come to us, and we usually make this with the cucumbers and the eggplants. Yeah, stick the chopsticks to it, and yeah, cucumber is for coming, because it seems faster, like horse, and eggplant is for going back. And yeah, for the ancestors can take their time to going back. Yes, this is Japanese culture, Obon, in August. So I'm gonna read the poem, Bone and Beast. Title of piece is Bone and Beast by Takaki. I hope you guys enjoy it. おめえ、いい子になれよ。思い出は獣のうなり声ばかりだ。顎を膨らました獣はトサカの育ちきらない鶏の首元を全身に呪いを蝕まれたとは思えない破壊的な腕力で引き寄せた。目を見て震えたのは二度目だった。太平洋戦争の生き残りを衰弱させるには末期がんではいくらか足りないらしい。席を外していた荒わしは、高校を辞めて夜中にマイクを乗り回しているといった限られた情報のみを吹き込んでいたらしい。獣は鶏が分かったというまでその悪魔的な握力を緩めなかった。いい子とは、針の穴のような視野と価値観をめでていた頃の方が、あるいは見知っていたかもしれない。生きていたかもしれないし、言い切っていたかもしれないし、生きていたかもしれない。遺言に手を合わせてから、いい子を探す10年が始まった。家計で初めてのいわゆる高学歴を手に入れた8月、墓に手を合わせた。いい子と呼ぶにはまだ疑問が残った。獣は黙っていた。やはり、トサカはまだ小さかった。一部上場企業への入社が決まった8月、墓に手を合わせた。いい子を探すのには疲れ始めていた。獣は黙っていた。やはり、すぐに羽が折れた。皮膚が太陽を忘れた8月、墓に手を合わせた。 鶏はだらしなく鳥坂を垂らし、いい子を恐れていた。冷たい石から獣のうなり声が聞こえた気がした。羽は時を経て治った。鶏は朝を知らせることを覚えた。いい子にはまだ遠く、がしかし、トサカは隆々と角のごとく。鷹になる予感がして、8月、墓に手を合わせた。獣はいびきをかいている。多少、かっこいい子にはなったのだろう。That's it. So, this is my brief bio. I'm a rapper and poet in Poetry Slam in Tokyo. And we are hosting Tokyo Kotoba online open mic. This is an international open mic on Zoom chat. And for now, we are doing this monthly. And we really always waiting for your art, waiting for your entry. So please check our website, Kotoba Slam Japan. And I'm also hosting Kotoba Slam Japan 2021 West Tokyo. This is a local tournament of the Kotoba Slam Japan Grand Championship. And yeah, this is a national spoken word slam championship. Yes. And as my spoken words activity, especially particularly slam, I'm a best forward of the KSJ Saitama and best forward of the KSJ 2020. And yes, please check my Instagrams, Facebook, or Twitter. Yes, Takagi on the microphone. So thank you very much. はい、ということで、次はナミ様、よろしいですか。では、ミュート外していただいて、
はい。
はい。じゃあ準備大丈夫そうであれば、このままミュートしちゃいます。
はい。And hello everyone, and I'm Nami Naito, and also from Tokyo Kotaba Online Open Mic TKOO. And thank you for having me here today. And okay, I'm gonna read my poem first. And let me share my screen too. Okay, the title of my poem is Whisper of November. This is written in remembrance of my late grandmother. Please listen. 11月のささやき。吸い込んだ空気を吐き出せるというその営みを教えてくれたのは一人旅立っていったあなたで、ただ愛おしかった。冬の入り口に二人きっと帰ったのだと思う。言葉の響きは音として残るから、その土地に出会うようなもので、そうして今でも私は時折ふと会いに行くことができる。そんな気がして、過ごしてきた時間を思う。一つずつ剥がれていく記憶の剥がされていく被膜の一枚ずつを拾い集めることはしなかった。それは追い戻ることの叶わない断りの果てでいつか私に溶けている。今生きていると産声を上げて。巡るんだ。 だから、もう一度帰るよ。例えば、血のつながりがなくとも、例えばもう重ねてきた記憶が薄れてしまったとしても、愛しむことができると教えてくれたのはあなたでした。今夜は晴れますか？見上げればあなたに会えますか？あの歓喜をひととき忘れて。お帰りなさい。何百億光年の彼方から星はささやく。忘れぬあなたの声で。Thank you so much for listening. And again, I'm Nami Naito, and dancer and a poet from Japan. And I am also a co-host of Tokyo Kotoba Online Open Mic. And if you are interested in join our open mic event, please visit our official website or any SNS accounts. And we have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And please search for Tokyo Kotoba Online Open Mic or Kotoba Slam Japan. And I also have a private SNS account. So please search for it and follow me if you would like to contact me. And thank you so much for having me here today. And thank you for Jane to invite me. And it's my great honor to be here with you all. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass the baton to our boss, Yuri Miki. はい、ミキさん、ご準備いかがでしょうか？
はーい。It's my son.
He's so cute.
はーい。もうこれ画面の共有していいのかな？まだかな？さっき喋ってからかな？はーい。
じゃあ私ミュートにしちゃいますね。
はーい。
お願いします。This is Yuri Miki's turn.
Hi everyone. I am Yuri. I am an organizer of Tokyo Kotoba Online Open Mic and Kotoba Slam Japan. So today I will read a poem about the death of my grandfather. He died about 4 years ago, a month after my son was born. He lived to be 102 years old. He was a wonderful man and taught me poetry. The poem title is よいしょ。ちょっと待ってね。待って、あれどこ行っちゃったなあった。のどぼとけ、のどぼとけ。
ロバーチって言っちゃった。
のどぼとけ。
のろおか、うんこちゃん。
臨終を知らせるように、
痛い。
明け方まで血のみ子は顔は隠して泣き、午前5時台の着信、ボタンを押す前から分かっていた。よくぞ生きた人。よくぞ生きた人よ。生き尽くしたのに、その骨は真っ白く、もろく崩れることもなく、葬儀屋の決まり文句の通りに美しく、 仏が座っていたあなたの喉の骨。箸でそっとすくわれ、綿を詰めた小瓶に、その後、白木の箱へ。あとは、土と石の中。あとは、土と石の。あなたが何度その海を渡ったか知らぬまま、世紀という途方もない時間をうずめることもできず、その棚に祀る、よくぞ、生きた人よ。眠るな。あれ、ここに。Thank you. The links is called Nodo Botoke in Japan. Nodo means throat and Botoke, Hotoke means Buddha. It's one shape that looks like Buddha in their meditation. And and this is me and Kotoba Slam Japan and Tokyo Kotoba Online Mike's SNS account. Please check it out and follow me and follow us. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuri-san, and thank you, Fumio. Yeah, he's so
His name
cute.
is Fumio.
Okay, so that's it for us, and yeah, thank you for listening. And yeah, as we said, please check it out, our website, Tokyo Kotoba Online Open Mic and Kotoba Slam Japan National Grand Slam. And yes, その他何か言いたいこととか皆さんあります？大丈夫そうかな？
言葉スラムジャパンぜひYouTube 見てください。
Yeah, please follow our YouTube channel. Please subscribe our YouTube channel, Kotoba Slam Japan. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Bye. See you.
Well, what a great set we had there. We're going to move on to another pre-recorded from Benedicta Boama. She's a poet. They're a poet from Ghana.
Hi, this is poet Benedicta Boama, and I read Ancestors of the Past. Ancestors of the past, lying lifeless with punctured bleeds of pain, choked, tossed, mishandled and tilted, a tentative willow of a never-ever grasp, taken away in bequeath, the gallows of imperceptible ancestral paths, nibbling the forefathers of the past, faded in shadows of whispers. To the masses was why did I stay? To the Ghanaian was the colonial rule of slave trade, emancipation it was. In it was hidden the Red Sea, Indian Ocean, Middle East, and Saharan slave trades of ancestral bequests, an empirical emergence of history, the robust determinants of the past. Thank you.
Great, that was a very short piece. We're going to queue up our next performer is Mohammed Tariq Anis, pre-recorded environmental poetry, Death of Our Ways of Life.
My name is Mohammed Anis. I'm an Egyptian national, and I live in the United Arab Emirates. I'd like to begin with a poem by the name of Frankenstein. There's a misconception that Frankenstein is the monster but the name actually belonged to the man who made him. In the story, the being is called Wretch, most of the time Monster, even more It. In the story, he is as nameless as depression. If Frankenstein wrote a poem instead, a prose from the bones of his closet, maybe it'd be the meaning his monster wished he had. His heart must have been a faucet for trauma. Or maybe trauma was a faucet for his heart. Maybe stitching limbs into a sad monstrosity was easier. After all, a poem can sometimes resemble a soul too much. Hitler dreamed of being a painter. It was easier to wage world war and exact genocide than give life to a white canvas. Had he written stanzas, he'd probably see the reflection the mirror tried to show him before it was too late. Hate is the cheapest commodity a soul can buy to make sense of things, a twisted declaration of self-love attempting to spin itself into the shape of a heart that disfigured itself, configuring into a fidgeting shelf of lies it tells itself. She was the pages Frankenstein could have written on, and he was the canvas Hitler could have painted on. Hate is an emptiness that shaped itself into the ghosts the artists were never honest enough to see in themselves. Now give a virus the pen of fate. We've been tempting it for too long. Watch it rearticulate the designs of neglect men are too afraid to admit. While the world bands together to usurp a world menace, remember how dolphins and swans swam back to Venice, how a clear sky hurried back to China like the father kicked out by his prodigal sons, or how a son finally got to see his father up close. Give a virus a pen that'll make a poem out of all of you, shoving your New Year's resolution list down the shredder, reminding you of a world full of consequences, making you second guess, second chances, even the man you voted for in the elections. The coronavirus is laughing at your makeshift toilet rolls made of your CVS receipts, terrorizing supermarkets more than the kids you feared crossing the borders. If Frankenstein wrote a poem, maybe he could have found love instead. If Hitler painted a painting, who knows? So the next poem, well, we know about global warming and the talk about plastic. I decided to cut plastic a little break. Plastic, crude oil, and Earth's unwanted middle child. I see you carrying mom's necessities back home. I see you bearing the brunt of the trash. The little nephew's teeth molding the nape of your neck into a chew toy. How you put up with rolling his walker through every accident his imagination pushed you into. I see you wandering the air. I see you wandering the air. A humble imitation of the clouds. I see you caressing the ink of this poem and grandmother's picture on my 11th birthday. I see an amputee wearing you, a synthetic but honest attempt to dispel the phantoms that dwell where his legs should have been. I see you cast away, carried along water even though it had once taken the shape of you. They abandon you in space, after you safeguard them past the stratosphere, but you can take consolation knowing that the stars won't be as inconvenienced as us. Maybe you can hear him over radio chatter, wailing about population control, the eulogies making you out to be manifestation of their negligence, not manifestation that was neglected. Maybe they wail because you are the object of envy. Perhaps they see in you the qualities they've always wanted. Longevity, or the ability to shape oneself around the satisfaction of one's ego. Perhaps they seethe as they watch you being carried across the ocean, paraded across the waters like the effigies they wish were shaped after them, passportless in a world that celebrates the borders it has built. They'll pretend to mourn the dead you send them. their sentiments as synthetic as the accusations they pin against you. So float, fly, let the waters take the shape of you. Plastic, crude oil, and Earth's unwanted middle child.
Alrighty. It is a great pleasure to introduce the next person. In the 13th century, a great poet from the northern part of India passed away. He was being mourned, and a big fight ensued. The folks from Pakistan wanted his body, and the folks from the south wanted his body, and the battle lasted for a while, mostly word battle. And as it turned out, when they went to open his coffin, he was gone. This was the great poet Kabir, the great mystic, who some of you may have heard. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because when I first heard Unmesh Mohitkar, it was like a fireman yelling fire at a theater. Every word was urgent. Everything was, you had to, if you didn't feel an urgency, he made you feel an urgency. And and something clicked, like after hearing him several times, I was listening to the way he was reading and the way that I had read Kabir, and I thought, I wonder if the way Unmesh Mohitkar reads would have been the way that Kabir, the great mystic, would have sounded like. And I made this kind of like cognitive association across these many generations. Like, I wonder if this is what Kabir, the great mystic poet, would have sounded like. It would have sounded the way that Unmesh Mohitkar reads. And I think that there is urgency, there is importance to his lyricism, his vision, his imagery, and he is the author of Light Shadow Life, the missing verse of the soul, and he definitely will stick you in the soul. He is read internationally, and obviously he's here with us tonight, which is really a great pleasure. The best way to experience him is live, and obviously it's still Zoom, but it's the best way. He is read in Singapore. He's been in the San Jose Poetry Festival, a regular at the New Eurekan Cafe, writes in 3 languages. His poems have been published in multiple anthologies. He's definitely a globe-trotter, and has visited over 22 countries. So, I mean, definitely it is a pleasure to have Ishmael. If there was a title for like a poet guru, he would definitely call you to action.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Tezuzomak. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And this was a great introduction. Thanks a lot. You made my day. I'm going to read 2 poems. And in India, we respect our forefathers twice a year. So we follow some tradition. There are few customs which are followed. The first part of the poem is related to that. I'm just touching it. The second part is related to few customs which are followed deep in the forest. So I trek a lot. So I roam around and I mingle with the local people living in the forest and the traditions which they followed. And I was really surprised. And the last poem is about my friend who passed away this year. Let's go. There is a Sanskrit saying, Jivash Jivanam. Jivo Jivash Jivanam. One living being is food for another. We are all interconnected. The crow refused to touch the morsel of food in the plate made from the leaves of palash trees, the flame of the forest. This tree in the forest was burning with red flowers, very act that its leaves were used for calling the soul of our forefathers. The black crow is the symbol of the soul connection between living and dead. Forefathers seem to be unhappy. The crows did not come. This was the day to respect dead. Crows were offered food in every house of the village. Too much to eat, they must be full. So much responsibility on the crows to keep the souls happy. They are the connection between us and the dead gone long ago. My father was worried. How can the crows be so irresponsible? But it's not the crows that were irresponsible. We were irresponsible. The pesticides sprayed in the farms have killed all the crows. The connect with the dead is lost and dead. How are we going to learn? When are we going to learn? Jivo jivash jivanam. One living being is food to another. We are all interconnected. Few people were invited to our home for this particular day. My grandmother prepared the food. Everyone ate, paying respect to the dead. I was young, 10 years old. I saw white hair of my grandmother in the plate. I explained hair. Nobody paid attention. For them, respecting the dead was their duty. Small things doesn't matter. They were connecting with the universe. Jivo Jivasya Jivanam. One living being is food for another. We are all interconnected. The farm is in the forest. I was deep inside the forest near a small village of 400 people. Away from the so-called civilization, the sons of the forest lived there happily and proudly, following their undiluted traditions from times immemorial. Someone has died in the village. I stopped beside a tree, not so near, not so far. Just like the tree, I stood still, listening to the songs and sounds of the celebration of dead. There was a pyre. They put the dead body on it. Then flowers. One of the villagers, most probably the son of the dead man, ignited the pyre. And then they all started dancing. Some were smiling, some were crying, but they all were dancing. Real celebration of death. The dance to celebrate the death. Even the person who died would really want to be part of this celebration. Late in the evening, when I was coming back, the pyre has burnt, but the embers were still red hot. What a celebration of life. Jivo Jivash Jivanam. One living being is food for another. We all are interconnected. Thank you. This was the first one. Second one, this is for my friend Satish, who died in COVID. My dear smiling friend went to heavenly abode. Classmates during our engineering days, his smile, his laughter, positivity, which I will never forget. He helped me during my college days, in my studies, in my failures. He used to teach in an engineering college. I'm very sure his student would have liked him a lot. In fact, they would have loved him. He was such a gem of a person, silent, steady. Even when the boat was rocking, he was steering, stabilizing it, a hand ready to help you always, without any expectation, without any prerequisite, non-judgmental, open-minded. He used to speak regularly in the last 6 months of his life. In the last month, I lost contact. Suddenly, I got the news that he is in the hospital. COVID took his life. Sometimes you get a feeling something bad is going to happen, and it happened. After our college, our lives took different turns. I was busy in my own life. He was in his own. But our connection was always there. With him, I have lost a small part of my life as well. Rest in peace, my friend. I am sure wherever you go, you will make it a happy place. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And thanks for this opportunity, Dane and Mr. Tezozomak. You are wonderful, amazing.
Thank you, Mohivkar. What an amazing reading. As always, I promise he would stick you in the soul, and he definitely put a crow's beak through that. So thank you. This is the first time meeting K.R. Morrison, so I will not be able to share any. I won't be able to embarrass her, so that's probably better.
I'm a poet in SF. I'm sort of in transition right now, near family in Southern California, on a writing sabbatical. I just got a chapbook published, so I'm working on a new manuscript. That's about it. Thank you. I want to thank Dane for having me. This is my third year building an altar for my mother in my home instead of in Garfield Square Park in San Francisco. And I did that just with the changes of the city. And I really want to shout out to Ided, what she had to say earlier, because I can really relate. It just is such a personal process for me. And I found that being alone and being in a private space with my mother and with her altar was something I really started to need, especially since, strangely, I feel like I got to know my mother even more in the process of making her altar. And it'll be 7 years this May that I lost her. And the whole day became something different for me after she passed. Prior to that, my family, we've been very blessed to hold on to each other. And so the day's always been about ancestors that long before us, we never got to meet until we lost her. And then, boy, did the day become something profound. And I can't say it better than you did. It's sad, it's happy, it's beautiful, it's precious, it's tumultuous. And I love also the strange way my mother has healed people beyond me, just through that altar. And so I think that's why I wanted to be here, is to share a poem I have about her altar with you guys. And so one thing I didn't get to do when I just stay in my house with the altar. So my mother's name was Charlotte Ann, and this is called Her Altar. Your pictures come first, cascades of you that testify. Language can't touch what a pirate woman weathers and braves. Her Grand Canyon narrative hiked so ordinary souls can stretch, bleed a little, digest. Then come your favorite things. Supreme's records, your Lakers t-shirt, Chevrolet, chorizo and eggs, Folgers coffee and wild turkey, your sacred trail of tears. Around moonrise, candles converge. A bone echo of your voice returns. Lost daughters come, thirsty for a nest. A broken man, he lost his mother. I watch his tears rest in your sunset hands. The smell of motorcycle engines, polished oak and gunmetal wrap around him like a moon blanket. A little girl climbs inside portraits of you. Is this your mom? She asks. Her questions kiss your paintings and photographs. My grandma went to heaven too, she adds. She declares her muerta dress. I stitched it myself on my mom's sewing machine, she says. Her green eyes fastened to you. I retreat to all those costumes you handmade for us kids. My brother, a clown. My sister, a Cherokee warrior on Hallows Eve. I visit those sandboxed visits, a sad child's playground. Rusty swings chained to first love lost. I hated the world didn't get along with you. A policeman clears his throat, a cold disruption. Ma'am, it's time to break down. Pack it up. Time for you to go home. Home. My eyes find calloused hands wrapped around a flashlight and a gun strap. Bury home on my wounded knee. Your countless evictions, a rental, an emotion, a relationship. I blow out the candles, I say goodbye, like leaving you on weekends, and ache looms in my lungs, outweighs me. I collect you, pictures and offerings, as if I'm packing a lifetime of our conversations. I feel our mother moon hold me as if I'm a foster child. My new address, All Souls Day. Thank you.
Thank you. That was all you're reading?
Yeah, I just wanted to share my mother before I begin building her altar.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you. That was an awesome piece. The
That was
next person.
beautiful. Beautiful, Kiara. Oh my God, you got me crying over here so bad. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, both of you. And Karen Scott is somebody I've shared the mic with, and she's like bracing for, like, how is he gonna embarrass me? But she definitely knows how to rock the word is right mic. I believe that Marissa Prada would throw herself down for her. She definitely says Karen Scott is it. Karen Scott is a poet living in Columbus, Ohio. She's a member of the Ohio Poetry Association, a past participant of the Women of Appalachia Project, and a proud member of the Salon Writing Group. Some of her work has been published in Common Threads, annual OPA members anthology, Women Speak, Women of Appalachia anthology, Delirious, a poetic celebration of Prince 2016, the inaugural issue of the Norton Appalachian Review 2020, and the Quarantine Zine, published by OPAWL. Another poem was made into a broadside that can be found at https://poetry superhighway.com. So if you want to clean up the freeways, you can read her poetry while you're doing it. Majority of her poems are poems of remembrance, a sort of memoir in verse. So without any more embarrassment, here is Karen Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Tez, and thank you, Dane, for inviting me. My father has been gone 30 years, my husband for 23 years, and my mother passed away earlier this year, but actually I lost her more than 6 or 7 years ago due to Alzheimer's. So this year was just to put that final date on the headstone that at the gravesite that she shares with my dad. Traditionally, as a family of African Americans and Appalachians, we would celebrate Memorial Day, and that's when we would go and visit the various grave sites and clean them up and have a few words. But I'm kind of trying to end that with my generation, because I like to think that my ancestors are not tied to a grave, but that they're only a thought away. So this first poem is called Inheritance. My father loved to work with his hands. From him, I learned to grow things from houseplants to vegetables, to forage for nuts and berries, fish for bluegill and bass, to camp, be at home in nature, how to reuse, recycle, jerry-rig, and repair. From my mother, the teacher, I learned to read, enjoy learning, and prize curiosity. My mother was the first performance poet I knew. She memorized Browning's How Do I Love Thee, Kipling's If, and Dunbar's In the Camp, and would spit them at a moment's notice. And I, mixed product of their nurture, dabble in arts, know birds by their song and silhouette, fight back the undergrowth in my yard, and write poems I do not memorize. The next one is called Old Spices. I dumped the last of the Old Bay seasoning into the seafood soup. Not exactly the amount the recipe calls for, but it will have to do. I look at the empty container and think, this canister's probably been around since Baltimore. A few weeks ago, I used the last of the crushed red peppers kept in the little glass jar with the slightly rusted Weiler's lid. My father had bought several strings of dried whole peppers from Odd Lots, his favorite store. They're all called Big Lots now. He gave me a string of the peppers and I crushed them into the Weiler's jar, used them sparingly these many years. When the last bits were gone, I brought crushed peppers in a plastic container from Kroger, but I still haven't thrown away that jar. If I like something, they take it off the market. If I love someone, they die or are taken away. I wish Whip and Chill and Jello 123 were still available, and Kim's Son was still open in Reynoldsburg, that there were still Po Folks restaurants in Dayton and Ali's Chicken in Hilliard. I wish my dad had never passed away, that my mother still had her memory, that I was not living in the singular. I'm going to keep the Old Bay container. It was never about the spice. And then this last one, I just wrote like yesterday. And it's called Feast of the Dead. If I get a recipe from you, I will title it with your name and then the name of the dish, like Nini's mother's chicken and rice dish, or Cousin Pam's mock chow, or Donna Geber Christos freeway pizza. An homage to the person who gave me the recipe and a way to bring them to mind each time I cook it. If I could have all my lost back for a feast, the house would be filled. Such smells, such taste, such love, like soul food without the drama. My husband would be at the stove frying huge pieces of the 41-inch walleye caught with his own hands, or stirring a huge stock pot of creamy seafood chowder, his Rhode Island roots slightly out of place with all the Appalachians and transplanted Ohioans around. My mother would be reminding me to take the greens through 7 waters, or chiding me for not making the crust of the blackberry and the peach cobblers from scratch. She and my Granny Blanche would be shaping the rolls, and I would be on hand when the first batch came out of the oven, steaming hot and slathered with butter. My granddaddy's sand tort pound cake would be scenting the air as it cooled next to my mother's white chocolate cake. My father would be on the porch, churning homemade ice cream while getting to know his grandchildren that he never got to meet, the 3 of them born after his departure. He would be grinning from ear to ear, that delighted smile he passed on to me. Many cultures leave food at gravesides for the departed. Many times, all the legacy we have to pass on is just that, memories and recipes. May they both be sweet. Thank you.
Memories and recipes. Oh my God, Karen, that's amazing. That's exactly it. That is where it's at. That's where we remember all.
Thank you.
Like I said, she over delivers. She definitely over delivers. Thank you, Karen. It's always a pleasure being at an open mic with you. And it's a pleasure hearing your work every time. Thank you. We are going to call Vicky Aqua. If I'm mispronouncing that, please correct me. I don't have much of a bio for you, but you're welcome to share with us. All I know is that you're a world traveler and have many, many decades of poems, which we are going to find out, and do share a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And Dane has my bio, so I don't know if he wants to share it or...
Go ahead and tell us about yourself, and then you jump right into your work.
Okay, well, I put a pictorial up for you. There's my angel above. There's my ancestor, grandmother, my daughter, my other grandmother, my father. I'm the eldest of my family. These are some of the books. Oladeji Undercover. My other name is Oladeji. I go by Vicky Aqua, but my pen name is Oladeji. That's my daughter on that page. This is my classic poems undercover. That's my daughter's obituary, my mother's obituary, 2 rants, chants, and lyrics, political poems, humorous poems, epic classics. So it's kind of like I run the gamut. My background is basically starting off with Paul Laurence Dunbar, passed down from my grandmother. So I've been to some funerals this week. So I had done a poem called Funeral Hat, which I still have on my head right now. But now that I'm getting ready to read, I'm going to take it off because I've gotten kind of hot. I'm going to place it over here on this chair that was my grandmother's chair. It's 150 years old. So it's a lot of history I'm surrounded by my ancestors. And I was really pleased that Dane asked me to do this because I've learned a lot about other cultures in the celebration of the day that we call Halloween, which is now more familiar to me as All Saints Day or the Day of the Dead. And I enjoyed everyone's poetry and their experience with death. My first teacher in poetry was Paul Laurence Dunbar, and that's his book right there. And I'm going to read my poem called Funeral Hat, and I'm going to read his poem called Ere Sleep Comes Down to Soothe the Weary Eyes. Funeral Hat. When you get old, it's funeral clothes. A different day. Rejoice and not complain. Sanity is abstract. The new phrase is funeral hat. And that's funeral hat because when you get a certain age, this is basically your outings. I have another one to go to this week. As you can see, my mom, she just passed in July. My daughter passed 6 years ago from lack of potassium. My father and my ancestors' shrine over there, everybody's over there. I'm still here, and I think I'm the matriarch now. I'm 72 years old. Like I said, Paul Laurence Dunbar is my mentor from the grave. And this poem of his is one of my favorites, so I'll do this one because I'm a poet and I love this one. When ere sleep comes down. Ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes, which all the day with ceaseless care have sought, the magic gold from which the seeker flies, ere dreams put on the gown and cap of thought. And we make the wakening world a world of lies most palatable, uncouth, forlorn, that say life's full of aches and tears and sighs. Oh, how, with more than dreams, the soul is torn. Ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes. Ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes. How all the grief and heartaches we have known come up like poisonous vapors that arise from some basis witch's cauldron in the crone. To work some potent spell, her magic plies, that past which held its share of bitter pain, whose ghost we prayed that time might exorcise, comes up, is lived and suffered o'er again. Ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes, ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes, what phantoms fill the dimly lighted room? What ghostly shade in all creating guise are bodied forth within the teeming gloom? What echoes faint of sad and soul-sick cries, and pangs of vague, inexplicable pain that pay the spirit's ceaseless enterprise, come thronging through the chambers of the brain, ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes. Ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes, where ranges forth the spirit far and free, through the strange realms and unfamiliar skies, tends far course to lands of mystery, to lands unspeakable beyond surmise, where shapes unknowable to being spring, till faint of wing the fancy fails and dies, much wearied with the spirit's journeying. Ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes, ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes, how questioneth the soul, that other soul, that inner sense, which neither cheats nor lies, but self expresses unto self a scroll, full writ with all life's acts unwise or wise, and characters indelible and known. So trembling with the shook of sad surprise, the soul doth view its awful self alone, ere sleep comes down to soothe the weary eyes. When sleep comes down to still the weary eyes, the last dear sleep, whose soft embrace is balm, and whom sad sorrow teaches us to prize, for kissing all our passions into calm. Ah, then no more we heed the sad world's cries. Oh, seek to probe the eternal mystery, or fret our souls at long withheld replies, at glooms through which our visions cannot see, when sleep comes down to seal the weary eyes. Paul and Dunbar, read by Mama Oladeji Dikiakwa. Okay, the poem that I think Dane would like for me to present to you would be When Your Child Becomes Your Ancestor. Out of my extremely painful soul, I have placed you on the altar. You sit where I should be sitting, between your two great grandmothers, over the top and near your grandfather. Through tears and a tightly beating heart, I have asked that they guide you through this journey. My daughter has gone before me and left me to anguish. The children she bore for me to enjoy are now scattered, leaving me pitifully alone. My heart leaks like a sieve as evil tricks use opportunities to fatten selfish agendas. Today, I have placed my only daughter on the ancestral throne, where she now is watching over us, when I should be there watching over her. But this cruel twist of fate has rendered me vulnerable, while those who smile and laugh unnerve me, those who want to love her so much posthumously, but have not asked after the ache in the womb that bore her. She is now in the realm of the ancestors. She sits in the seat of the mighty. She has never had a jealous bone in her beautiful body. Kai is now a goddess sitting on high, paid for the privilege, new guardian of the universe. You will now see through wise eyes and know the mischief of their unclean motives. See to it that no evil intentions harm us. The hardest thing I've ever done was to place you amongst the ancestors. I remembered when you stopped a Mack truck and made the driver allow me to cross the street. You were only 3 or 4. And now you can guide me across bridges, roads, and highways. Now you can see through angels' eyes, for you be guided by those I placed near you. Protect us, for you now know the spheres of the 7 heavens, as well as the wickedness of the earth. I place you between your 2 grandmothers, beside your aunts, above your grandfather, between iniquity and loyalty. You will no longer be underexposed or gullible. The hardest thing I ever had to do was done today. I placed you, my only daughter, on the ancestral altar where I'm supposed to be. No more are you my earthly daughter, for which I cry and sigh. No matter how I cry and sigh, today I realize that you have become my spirit guide. When your child becomes your ancestor, Mama Oladeji, all around Queen, Vicky Aqua.
Wow, unmute yourselves and take that in. That's very deep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Just so beautiful, Vicky. So beautiful. I've learned about my mother now, hearing that poem. My mother lost 3 daughters. I lost 3 sisters. Now I know more. Now I know more. Bless you for sharing that. Bless you.
Thank you
She's
so much.
a guardian of the universe, new guardian of the universe. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. The angels are watching over her and us. And your
What a reading. Thank you, Vicky, once more. And we're gonna have to take a deep breath to take that in and hit us. It's that Mack truck definitely hit us.
Yeah, she went in, she broke away from my grip, ran in the middle of the street, put her hand up, and the truck could barely see her because she was only a baby. And he stopped and he put his head down on the steering wheel, and she looked over and she said, "Come on across, mother." She was a beautiful person. She by the time she was 2 years old, she had went. I mean, when we thought she was in second grade, she got skipped to the fourth grade. She came out of college at age 17, and she gave me 3 grandchildren. And she did everything she wanted to do. She went to Africa. She built her mushroom farm. She studied the mushrooms. She traveled the world teaching about the mushrooms. She was voted as one of the most unique people. She didn't do a TED Talk because she didn't get a chance to, but she was on the list to do a TED Talk. She was just an extraordinary person. She was 43 years old and she left. She came, she conquered, and she left. And,
Awesome.
yeah, that's my comment.
Well, we are moving on to the penultimate poet. That's a double P there.
Thank you.
This is what I would call the Save Me Mary portion of the poetry reading. We have Tish Camp the poet, or Tish Camp poet. She's definitely going to be closing us out. She's definitely dealt with the topic. She's had the death of her divorced parents, 3 of her sisters, as she mentioned, a best friend, and her husband. In 2017, Tish began writing her grief, poetry, books, audio, and theater. Her book, Good Grief, Please, A Dialogue with Death and Life, is a series of afterlife marital arguments with her late husband. If having them in life wasn't enough, she extended that and created a whole book out of them. And his negotiations for her to re-engage with community. From this, her own one-woman show, This Shy Grief, was devised, a real but comedic insight into the pain and emergent daily shide of widowhood. Her sad and somewhat delightfully deadpan comedic grief writing and poetry continues, and I don't think you will be disappointed. Tish is definitely a closer, so I turn that over to the Mary Save Us portion of the reading. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to gather myself, and I hope so with this one, which has just been published. It's called Nubian Queen. This is for my sister, Jeanette Adi Osunsanya, who died on the 11th of March, 1986, my darling sister. You begin in the title of a book, Protector and Black Panther. You roam across wastelands of Elephant and Castle, defied monsters there and beat down doors. You were natural, fierce, even with freckles, and had philosophy spill like petals from your lips. Your books, jewels, knowledge of kings beset in the crown of a Nubian queen. Othello is your Moorish Moor. On your sunken velvet horsehair chair, leg skin preened and oil shining stage, lights on each. Every hair sat firmly like your seat in pause. My pride at your mouth open, eyes widen at pupils core, absorbing his hand neck drama, Desdemona death, and tears in mine at hers and yours. The rope, imagined scarf upon your neck, a story lie of flight in winds, the stage, the act, the scene. Black skin, freckle count on face. I recant like desert sand through fingers of disbelief. Sorry. into time returned of love for a Nubian queen. Black Panther, sister, sleep. Thank you. I'll get something else to drink. This next piece that I'm going to share is called Dead Party, Day of the Dead. It's written on the 11th of October, 2021. And I'll give a little bit of background to this. My father's from Trinidad in the West Indies, Caribbean. My mother is Irish, and my husband is from Gloucestershire, a white man from Gloucestershire. And it features all. The scene, empty, front room, my birthday, June 2021. I'm calling for this little get together as Day of the Dead is coming up, and I'm supposed to be sharing something of my experiences of the dead in my life. So if you would be so kind as to answer this spiritual invitation, Mum, David, that's my husband, Dad, first time attendee. It's like I'm anxious about the turnout. No need to worry about sausage rolls in the oven or having enough seats. They all seem to stand in the main. Mum, what? She's pissed at being dragged from her repeats of the 24/7 Jerry Springer cloud. Oh, good, you're here. Yes. Where is David? How? I said, sorry, where's David? How should I know? Okay, because lately he's been with you. Yes, that's because he can't tell you anything without me. I see that you're still smoking. Yes, yes, I am, said much more boldly than I'd hoped. Mum, I asked Dad to come. What's that? What? She softens some and checks her outfit. Always got eyes for him after all these divorced years, and even now in death. We get interrupted by the phone. WhatsApp message. The kids haven't eaten. Have you got anything? Be there in 20 minutes. Kiss. My daughter driving up the motorway with 2 grandkids, 11 and almost 3 years of age. The other 16 living with me. Yes, I'll put hot dogs on. Kiss, I replied. I watch Mum roll her eyes at my choice of food as that boy could do with a real meal. We're going out for my birthday. Table has been booked for 3 p.m. I say directly to her. I'm getting busy. Inside my tummy, butterflies are anxious and I know my legs are going towards the kitchen. I want her to follow. Is David here yet? I know he isn't, but I'm stalling for time. No, but where's your father? Just then, Dad appears as I'm ripping open finger rolls and getting hot dogs into the frying pan. I get awkward and nod bleakly at him and feel the rudest of hosts, red flushing rising in my cheeks. He is dead guest of honor, but these hungry kids on the daughter's tongue. So I fix up, turn and greet him appropriately. He's already seen Mum and has a scowl on his face. Dad, you're here. I'm so glad you could come. I'm sorry, Michelle and the kids are almost here too. The kids need hot dogs. Dad, I invited Mum. Yes, I'm here, he replies. I stand still. Hot dog sizzle to a slow stop. Now that I've turned the gas off. Where's David, Trisha? I bite my annoyed tongue, knowing full well, dead or alive, he needs another man to talk to and answer him respectfully. Dad, I don't know yet. I'll call him again. Mum is watching me. I can't do it properly when people are watching and judging. This is one thing she can't complain about me doing wrong. Maybe a bit slow, but the getting busy feeling, dead family dynamic and missing husband situation don't help. David, where are you, babes? I tried to hide my annoyance at him not being here on time and tried to secretly tell him, Mum and Dad are here already. I'm about to ask him to pick up juice at the garage for the kids and maybe some, but for the life of me, I don't know what dead people drink now. I'm getting stressed. Mum is looking at family pictures on the piano. Dad is standing like Prince Charles in the kitchen, equally in judgment at the hot dogs. And David finally arrives. David, oh, for fuck's sake, I tell him, rolling my eyes back at the parents behind me. He knows what that's like for me. I add, and I don't know where Ellis is, and Michelle is about 3 minutes away. He rescues me and takes over the hosting. Hello, he says to both and smiles. Hello, my friend, Dad says to him. David, now. He smiles at Mum too and leads them into the hallway. They are all scooching up by the piano, and I'm back to whacking out hot dogs in finger rolls with tomato sauce. I plate it up on a big silver tray and walk through all of them to the front room. I always feel guilty if I've got to dash around the house, as these spirits are kind of slow at walking. I'm sweating a little, but want to take the 1 minute I have left with them before the doorbell rings to just be their daughter and his wife, to have them say, well done, and don't worry, it's all going to be fine, and to thank them for coming. They are still. I am still. I want to be with them and just ask them lots of questions, each one of them. But I fear this moment will be gone and the party will have begun. Dad nods first. This is enough. David smiles gently and winks his, you got this, wink at me. Scene, laptop, Tish Camp in half lighting from a lamp on a white desk, writing, time on laptop is 22:03 p.m, date 12th of October 2021. I have acknowledgement for David, from David, as I'm writing this, the loud piercing whistle in my right ear. Yes, I got this, I type and say in reply. Back to the front room, the doorbell rings. Mum looks at me and takes a seat on the arm of the big chair. She is soft and encouraging. Go on now. We'll see you in a minute. That's it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Tish. Thank you for closing us out with that incredible. You know, it's rare to find exceptional poets who can do dialogue, and I find your work very well defined and well articulated with the dialogue work that you do as a poet, and I appreciate that. It's something I haven't seen quite a lot of, particularly not on the open mics that I work.
I don't normally share it, but the dialogue is very real for me.
Yeah, thank you. And well, this is the moment where we have to acknowledge the wizard behind the curtain, which is our Dane Ince, who just did a magnificent job of keeping us going. I want to thank all the poets who showed up tonight, reminding everybody that invite your fellow poets for tomorrow's open mic. We will do that tomorrow at 6 p.m. And I'm going to close out with a traditional Dia de los Muertos song. If I can pull it off. I broke a string yesterday, so as you know, when you replace strings, everything doesn't sound the same anymore, but we'll give it a shot. But so La Llorona is a song that comes from a older tradition, which was Llorona means the whipping woman. In many ways, she's lost her children, but there's kind of like 3 layers to her. Like there is the syncretism portion of this, where the conquistadores kill her children and drown them in the river, and then she's always weeping along in the darkness trying to find her children. Then there's a deeper one before that, which would have been more associated with rain, which is in certain parts they know her as Bacayú, or the wind serpent. And typically you will see this when there's a storm coming. There's a pull of the wind in, and then there's a pushing of the wind out when the rain is coming out. And that there's a time of the year, and I think Ronnie can tell us, in Puebla about this time is when the wind starts to come down from from the mountain, from the snow, so you get that cold wind, and so we know it as Ochpanosli, or the clearing of the roads, and it's really done via the wind. And so in a sense, the even more prehistoric portion is really a recognition of a hekat. A hekat is the wind, and we typically would see that coming in from the east, from the eastern front, from the coast, and that's typically where, a hekat and Quetzalcoatl are the deities associated with that region. And so this tradition of the wind or a hekat, and it's interestingly enough when we talk about like certain types of illnesses being that you're winded diseases, so diseases where the tentron aire is associated along with this type of idea. And in particular, like for example, if you want to say that somebody is crazy, you say they're winded. Typically we call them they're full of bullshit because they're full of hot air, right? But there is a parallel in the Western with being full of hot air. We call it hekayotsi, meaning that you're full of wind. In that sense, that means you're kind of crazy. So in that sense, this song is really the syncretism of a longer, three other series of longer traditions that are kind of underpinning this idea that comes around right after the harvest. Then there is the clearing of the roads, or Ochpanosli, as it is known. So I'm going to try to do this song justice.
I'm sorry, while you're getting ready there, I really do have to interrupt you. You really must change your name. It should be Professor Tessasomo. Thank you so much for your wonderful hosting this evening. And I want to thank also all the poets that came. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to share this space with you all. And thank you, Professor Tessasomo.
Thank you, Dean. I had this worked out. Let's see. I changed strings and I just can't find my way anymore. Nope, let's go to the chords. Salías de un templo, llorona, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi. Salías de un templo un día, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi. Hermoso huipil llevabas, llorona, que al ver que a la Virgen te creí. Hermoso huipil llevabas, llorona, que a la Virgen te creí. Mi llorona, llorona, de mi campo lirio. Ay, de mi llorona, llorona, de un campo santo lirio. no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es el martirio. El que no sabe de amores, llorona, no sabe lo que es el martirio. No sé qué tienen las flores, llorona, las flores de un campo santo. No sé qué tienen las flores, llorona, las flores de un campo santo, que cuando las mueve el viento, llorona, parece que están llorando. Que cuando las mueve el viento, llorona, parece que están llorando. Ay de mí, llorona, llévame al río. Ay de mí, llorona, llévame al río. Pame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Tápame con tu rebozo, llorona, porque me muero de frío. Dos besos llevo en mi alma, llorona, que no se apartan de mí. Dos besos llevo en el alma, llorona, que no se apartan de mí. El último es de mi madre, llorona, y el primero que el último es de mi madre, llorona, y el primero que te di. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me be of service to you. It was an incredible work done here. It was very well. I think it was very heartfelt. We collaborated well together, and I think every one of you poets brought so much to the table, and definitely I think we went continental, global with this work tonight. Thank you. Salía de un día, llorona, cuando al pasar yo te vi. salías de un